Yesterday's show, I had a conversation with y'all and I showcased to y'all how basically migrants was crossing over into Arizona and San Diego in order to get into the country now that Texas has closed off its border. And they basically put a bunch of alligators, I'm being facetious, they put a bunch of alligators inside of the water and they put up some razor wire against the federal requirement or the federal guidelines that was basically saying, no, we want to open up our borders to all of the illegal people, right? And we always, over the past 2 years almost, have been trying to figure out what is the play and why are they opening up our borders so much to allow for migrants to be able to come into the country, right? And over the past few weeks, I've been showing y'all also that the demographic of people that was growing the most as far as crossing into the country were actually Chinese, illegal Chinese people. Well, guess what? In that show yesterday where they detailed and they highlighted that, you heard that, Azriel? Yeah, y'all need to get the likes up. It's crazy. Where they detail and they highlighted that, migrants was literally getting free bus rides and they were requesting what cities that they wanted to go to, right? They were saying, listen, we want to go to Chicago, and they named Atlanta, and they named New York, and they named Minneapolis, and they named all of these different, in Chicago again, and then another New York, and then another Chicago. And they were basically saying that we want to go to these places because it's so much opportunity. And New York is over there giving out free money in order for us to live, work, play, eat, giving us education. They're a sanctuary city. Well, guess what? San Diego, just that fast, ran out of money. And guess what they did with the migrants? Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications.
Tonight, another major U.S. city, San Diego, buckling as it grapples with a growing number of migrants. Border Patrol dropping off hundreds of people at local bus stops from as far away as China and as close as Mexico.
Colombia. I'm from Senegal. I'm from Chad.
Volunteers were told to expect more than 350 street releases in the metro area on Friday alone.
I wanted to see what was happening down here. I know that they're going to be increasing the number of migrant drop-offs to about 1,000 a day, and that concerns us, especially considering the county has closed their program to house them.
The county had been funding a welcome center for migrants since October. It offered a safe place to charge phones, eat, and use the bathroom before many continued their travels.
How are these people that's so desperate and so poor that they're supposed to be seeking asylum here in the United States of America? How do they have iPhones? You know how much these iPhones cost? These things can get up to like $1,500 for one iPhone. How do they have iPhones? How do they have all of this modern convenience and stuff like that? They had a welcome center. A welcome center to people that's entering the country illegally. They were funding with taxpayer dollars a welcome center. Okay.
But late last week, that funding dried up, putting the burden on a patchwork of remaining nonprofits, many of those relying on the nonprofits' help, fleeing political chaos and crime.
En mi país, Ecuador, se encuentra al momento en un conflicto armado interno. Pandillas se quieren apoderar del país.
In a statement to NBC, Customs and Border Patrol said in part that, quote, this situation is the latest example of the pressing need for Congress to provide additional resources and take legislative action to fix our outdated immigration laws.
I'm going to be reading the super chat shortly. I see a super chat, Cabarrus Plus. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Earlier this month, a political standoff in D.C. left no solution on the table. A bipartisan deal fell through. House Republicans unwilling to free up funds without sweeping changes to immigration policies.
Republicans simply cannot vote for the bill in good conscience. And that is why I declared it dead on arrival, and it looks like right now it may be in some jeopardy.
California Governor Gavin Newsom blasting the ordeal, stating in part that, quote, when it comes to border security, Republicans in Congress have done nothing but create chaos and sabotage any attempts at progress.
Isn't it funny how just in the 2020 election, which all of y'all were swayed by and y'all were influenced by the pandemic, isn't it funny how Let's just be objective here. Trump said, and I quote, "We need to allocate more resources to the border, build more border wall, and invest in technology, infrastructure, and more border patrol agents in order to prevent these cities from turning into sanctuary cities." I quote, "to prevent these cities from turning into sanctuary cities and having to spend more U.S. money to house illegal immigrants." Then Biden came behind, and I've done too many shows where I actually showed that clip, where Biden came behind and he said, "We're not investing or building another inch of border wall in order to prevent illegal immigration from coming into this country." And AOC came through and said, "Listen, we think that everybody needs to have an opportunity to be able to thrive inside of the United States of America." And Eric Adams came behind him and said, "Well, listen, we believe in migrants and we a sanctuary city and we going to continue to invest in illegal immigration." I'm telling you, word for word, quote for quote, objectively, everybody said we don't care about what happens on the border. Now everybody is pissed because they voted against their own best interest, yet you have Gavin Newsom, quote, saying when it comes to border security, Republicans in Congress have done nothing but create chaos and sabotage any attempts at progress. Why do y'all continue to have these people at the helm? Why do y'all continue to have these people at the helm? California is in a crisis. They take in more money short of New York than any other state when it comes to the amount of money that they're. Let me pull up to California because see, you might not believe me. Chicago's budget is 16. Well, let me revise that. Let's look at Illinois because Chicago itself is almost $17 billion, right? Illinois' budget, the Illinois budget, separately from Chicago, is, hold on, because it's decreasing. Oh, they're making this difficult to find. They're making this difficult to find. The operating budget for Illinois is, ooh, it's a lot of paperwork to see this. You can't even Google this. It's literally hundreds of 615 pages in order to try to figure out what the Illinois budget is. Illinois budget reported to be $49 billion in spending. According to the Urban Institute, the urban.org, the Urban Institute, as a result of Illinois. Illinois' February 2024 budget, which was basically enacted in June 2023, the budget is for $49.1 billion in general fund spending, an increase in 3% over the previously enacted budget. $128 billion. That's what it says. Per U.S. Census Bureau, Illinois' combined state and local direct general expenditures were $139.4 billion in 2021. So let me look up California now. California budget. The budget deficit, meaning that the amount of money that California is projected to be short, is $73 billion. The proposed state budget is coming in at almost $300 billion, which is a 6% reduction from the 2023. $291.5 billion was California's budget, which comes in at an estimated $73 billion at a budget deficit, meaning that they need almost $400 billion, billion with a B, in order for them to operate in the state. That's insane. That's literally insanity.
From October to January, Border Patrol released more than 500,000 people with orders to appear in immigration court. The dwindling funds mean less temporary shelters for them to go to while they wait to see a judge.
And Tom, that Welcome Center opened its doors just last fall. It was even touted as an example for other cities to follow, but $6 million and several months later, it is now gone. The center saying that its resources were stretched to the limit, and now other nonprofits are jumping in to help all of those migrants from all over the world get to where they're going. But some of them say that the most treacherous part of the journey is now over.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking.
Now to the murder of a 22-year-old nursing student in Georgia, Laken Riley, allegedly killed by a migrant. Governor Brian Kemp is now blaming the White House over its border policy. Our senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami is in Athens, Georgia, with more. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, Rob. And authorities say that this young woman died of blunt force trauma and say that the man they have in custody used an object to kill her. Federal immigration authorities have now issued what's called a detainer for this murder suspect, which, had they done earlier, would have kept him from being released after his other arrests.
So, I had to take a phone call because, as you guys already know, I'm getting a delivery that's coming in a minute. So I didn't want to be talking over the show or have to stop the show in order to do so. But in this particular situation, there is a mother that is blaming the Biden administration for, the Georgia governor is blaming the Biden administration for a woman being allegedly murdered or killed by an undocumented migrant. They call them undocumented migrants. I'm telling you, they're illegally inside of the country. Undocumented actually went and killed somebody. And they've been telling y'all for a long time that, you know what? They're allegedly letting out all of the worst people out of their prisons and emptying them out and letting them come over to the United States of America. And they're not even letting y'all deport people back to the country.
Students at the University of Georgia came together to say good things and to say goodbye to 22-year-old Laken Hope Riley.
Wait. Listen, let me tell you something. Two things you cannot have, because then this is going to really upset some people. Let me say that again. It's two things that you cannot have, and I don't advocate against anybody, but let me just tell you something. It brings it a little bit more visibility when it happens a certain way. You can't have a little white girl getting murdered. Number two, you can't have a little white girl that is a productive citizen getting murdered. Those are two no-nos. Listen, that's worse than a white man. That's worse than a black woman. That's worse than a black man. That's worse than an Asian. That's worse than anything. You cannot have a white woman getting murdered, a young white woman that is going to one day become a productive citizen of society, and that they are a nursing student getting murdered. Let me tell you something. Of all of the different people that something can happen to, which I don't advocate for anything happening to anybody, that is the last thing, and I mean the absolute last thing that you can ever do. Don't you know, I'm just going to keep it 100 with you. Don't you know that when these people were getting lynched, the stuff that made the front page news, or the stuff that they wanted to make sure that you understood back in the day, back in history, was that when people was getting lynched, the one thing that they were saying that you couldn't whistle at a white woman. You couldn't whistle. You will get your head knocked off. Don't you know that these white men been simping for white women, which is one of the reasons why we started getting feminism in the first place? The last thing that you're supposed to do is to ever put your hands on a productive citizen, a productive woman. Absolutely, positively not. Absolutely, positively not. But this is what you get.
Obvious to me why it feels so dark right now, and that is because we lost one of the brightest lights that there's ever been.
The nursing student from a school nearby was killed on the UGA campus while she was out jogging last week, and her murder has become a case in point in the debate over immigration in America. Police say that her alleged killer is this man, 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra. He's from Venezuela, and according to federal officials, was let go after he was arrested for unlawfully entering the country near El Paso, Texas, a year and a half ago. Georgia's governor is demanding answers from President Biden and his immigration authorities.
Lakin's death is a direct result of failed policies on the federal level and an unwillingness by this White House to secure the southern border.
Authorities believe Ibarra illegally entered the U.S. in 2022 and has several run-ins with law enforcement since then, but was paroled or released before customs enforcement agents could step in. His brother, who was also arrested for allegedly carrying a fake green card, was also arrested before by local authorities and released.
That competing trip that President Biden and former President Trump are taking to the U.S. southern border this week really matters to many people, of course, watching this case and to voters this election season. George.
Let me tell you something. They not confused. They don't know. They don't not know what's going on. But here's the thing that I always wonder, right? Because I know that Biden and all of his advisors is probably advising him, hey, listen, you don't speak about the border crisis because it's not going to poll well. Hear me out. From a local level, and Brandon Johnson and all of those people. Now, we know that the people, they ain't advising Tiffany Henyard, okay? Tiffany Henyard over there in Dalton is on her own. She done started her own podcast talking about On the Move with Tiffany Henyard. We not talking about her. We talking about these larger city mayors, the Eric Adams, the Brandon Johnsons, the Joe Bidens, the Mike Johnson over there in Denver. This is what they say. Listen. There are certain things that we can't mention that we know is going to blow over a period of time because we're going to introduce this thing later. And if you mention it, it's not going to poll well, right? We've lost our humanity. We've lost our humanity. We're more concerned about staying in power than people's lives. When you're a leader, okay? Hello? Hello? Yes. Yeah, you come in the front door? Yeah, they'll direct you to exactly how to get up here. They'll give you the freight elevators. You know what unit? Do you know the unit? Do you know what unit to get into? Okay, so I'll see you up here shortly. Here's the thing. When you're a leader, okay, it's not just about numbers. It's not just about budgets. You have to consider more, right? The work. Do you know the greatest leaders, and I'm talking about the servant leaders, they have a true connection to the people, which is one of the reasons why you can't be removed as a leader. You have to continue to go out into the streets. You got to go and meet the people. You got to go and shake hands and kiss babies. But you can't just do that. You need to understand their situations. And this is why. It's because it then gives you context as to why it's important for you to work your butt off. Can we be frank? Can I just be absolutely real? This is one of the reasons why you got to work your ass off. Sorry to the churches. I'm going to just be real. Right? You got to work your ass off. And the reason that you got to work your ass off, and the reason that you got to be above reproach, and the reason why you can't make the same decisions and you got to exercise a level of discipline, and the reason why you got to be a reflection of the thing that you advocate for is because there are people that are depending on you and your decision-making ability and your ability to be able to lead the company, whether it be their ability to provide for their family, be successful, give them opportunities. You are responsible for people. That's why it's so important for us to be very, very careful who we have children with and things like that, let alone becoming a politician or a leader or a president of the United States of America. When a child says, man, I want to be the president of the United States of America, they're saying that because they want to lead and they want to do the right thing. But we lose that somewhere along the way when we start to become and get power, because it starts to become more about maintaining power and money than it is about the reason why we really got into it in the first place, which is why I'm always going to remain grounded, and I'm always going to interact with the chat, and I always want to make sure that I link up with the people, and I always going to meet the people, and why I have all of these meetups, and I come and kick it with y'all in person, because I need to understand you. When I jump on this show in the morning, I say, how do y'all feel? Where y'all at? Hey, I ain't seen you in a while. What's been going on with you? Oh, you had a success story? Hey, y'all, let's celebrate this person. What's going on with your mom? Let's pray for her. You know why? Because I'm invested. I'm emotionally, I'm physically, everything that I do, I'm invested in your success. So when something like this happens, we make decisions on a small level all the way up to the largest level of how it's going to impact somebody else. I can't just do what I want to do. They're messing up what it is that I want to communicate to the people. Hello? Yeah. Correct. Okay. Go and talk to the people in the front. I'm going to send somebody down there to help y'all, okay? I got you. I'm going to send somebody down there. You going to go down there and take care of that? Okay. Long story short, what I'm trying to communicate to you guys is Biden going to truly take responsibility for opening up the borders and something happening to somebody when they shouldn't have been on American soil in the first place? Who takes responsibility for the bad decision making? Is it only based off of policy, or is it based off of what's best?